Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today, well, it's pretty clear. We want to solve a huge problem. Many leaders face that feeling of being completely stuck, analysis paralysis.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
We're not just adding more information to the pile, we're aiming to give you a specific skill, one that helps turn all that noise, all that data overload into clear, doable, and importantly, morally sound choices.
And that skill we're digging into is discernment. It's really the art of seeing beyond just what's happening, to understand the why behind it. The sources we looked at are really clear on this. Too many leaders treat big decisions like math problems. Just add up the inputs, see what most people think.
Follow the crowd.
Exactly. And then they're surprised when the decision doesn't feel right, or worse, it just falls apart down the line.
Yeah, I've seen that happen. And that's how really smart teams can end up making some pretty bad calls, hasn't it? The world moves so fast now. The complexity is immense.
It really is. That buffer, that margin for error we used to have, it's pretty much gone.
So those old reliable methods, just trusting your gut feeling or having meeting after meeting or waiting for every single piece of data.
They don't work anymore. They're too slow, they're unreliable, and honestly, they can really damage trust within a team or with clients.
Okay, so if those old ways are out, what's the alternative? What gives leaders that edge?
The sources call it a durable advantage. It's the ability to move quickly without sacrificing your principles, your integrity. And discernment is like the key ingredient to make that happen.
So it helps you get clear faster, and it makes sure your choices actually line up with who you are, your character.
Precisely. And it builds resilience. So when things inevitably get tough, you're on solid ground.
Okay, that makes sense. Before we get into the how-to, let's just quickly touch on the problems discernment actually solves. You mentioned 3 traps.
Yeah, 3 common ones. First, that analysis paralysis we talked about.
Yeah.
You get more data, but instead of clarity, you just get more arguments, more confusion.
Right, it doesn't actually help you decide.
No. Discernment acts like a filter, helping you pick out the important signals from all that noise.
Okay, trap number 1. What's the second?
The second is relying too much on just intuition or just going along with what seems popular, the majority view.
Ah, groupthink.
Exactly. Groupthink is a real danger. The sources emphasize that even when everyone agrees, especially under pressure, that consensus can be fundamentally flawed. If agreement comes too easily, maybe you haven't pushed hard enough.
Good point. And the third trap?
The third is treating ethics like some kind of, add-on, like an afterthought.
Where the only question becomes, are we legally covered?
Yes. And you completely lose sight of the long-term impact on people or the organization's reputation, just for a quick win.
Okay, so those are the traps. We need a way to avoid them, a structured approach.
Which brings us to the framework the sources lay out, TGTG. It's a 4-step process.
TGTG. Let's break that down. What does it stand for?
It stands for truth, goodness, timeliness, and godliness. It's designed to blend that hard-nosed critical thinking with values-based judgment.
Truth, goodness, timeliness, godliness.
It's a sequence.
Yeah.
You work through each filter. If a decision passes all 4, you're moving beyond just ticking boxes, towards real confidence.
All right, let's start at the beginning. Step 1, truth. This feels foundational, but maybe harder than it sounds, especially now with so much information, opinion, spin.
It is harder than it sounds. This step is all about intellectual honesty, about rigor. You have to actively gather the facts and be really disciplined about separating the actual data from the story someone is telling about the data.
So data is what happened, interpretation is why someone thinks it happened.
Exactly. So the key questions here are, what do we know for sure, like really know, and where can we check this quickly, independently?
And what's a warning sign here, a red flag that you might not be grounded in truth?
A big one is basing a major decision just on, say, a few anecdotes. Oh, I heard from a couple of people that. Or relying solely on one single metric, one KPI, that might be painting a misleading picture.
You have to be willing to dig deeper than that first layer.
Absolutely. You need multiple data points, verification.
Yeah.
Okay, so once you feel you've nailed down the truth as best you can, you move to the second filter. Goodness.
Goodness. Okay, so we know the facts. Now what?
Now you ask, what does good actually look like in this situation? And the sources define good quite broadly. It's not just about profit or efficiency. It has to serve the health of the organization, yes, but also, critically, human dignity.
Wow, okay. That adds a whole different dimension. It's not just about being factually correct. The action needs to be constructive, positive.
Right. It shifts the focus from just what's in it for us to considering the wider impact.
So thinking about who else is affected, beyond the immediate team or bottom line.
Precisely. You need to evaluate the whole picture. Who benefits from this decision? Who might be harmed even unintentionally? What are the ripple effects down the road that we maybe haven't thought about? The essential question is, does this choice uphold dignity? Does it build trust? Does it create long-term value, not just short-term gain?
And if it doesn't, if it looks good on paper short-term, but maybe hurts morale or damages a client relationship.
The sources call those false wins. I really like that phrase too.
Me too.
Because they look like wins now, but they're actually creating future problems. They're liabilities. You're essentially borrowing against future goodwill.
Okay, so that's truth and goodness. We've got the facts, we've checked the ethical and relational impact, but often the clock is ticking. Decisions need to be made now. How does the framework handle that pressure?
That brings us to step 3, timeliness. This is all about managing that classic tension between needing to act fast and needing to be accurate.
Right. A great decision made too late is, well, it's not a great decision anymore.
Exactly. It might be factually true, ethically sound, but if the moment passes, the opportunity is lost. You have to recognize those windows of opportunity. Waiting for 100% certainty often means missing the boat entirely.
So it's about weighing the cost of waiting versus the cost of acting now.
That's the core question. What's the actual specific downside if we delay this by a day, a week? And conversely, what's the risk or cost if we rush it and get it wrong, needing to backtrack?
And the red flag here.
Perpetual delay. Always waiting for just one more piece of information, chasing that elusive 100% certainty. Discernment means accepting that sometimes clear enough is good enough to act. Perfection isn't usually on the table.
Okay, truth, goodness, timeliness. That leads us to the 4th step, godliness. Now, I imagine for some listeners, especially in a business context, that word might feel loaded, maybe exclusively religious. How did the sources approach this?
That's a really important point, and the sources are quite careful here. They frame godliness less about specific religious practice and more about testing the decision against your highest principles, your core identity, your ultimate commitments. Think of it as the integrity filter or long-term stewardship.
So it's asking, does this decision align with our fundamental non-negotiable values? Does it honor who we say we are or who I want to be?
Exactly. It pushes beyond, is it legal? Or even, is it good for the company? To, is this right in the deepest sense?
What are the key questions for this filter?
Things like, does this decision truly honor our mission, our stated values, perhaps even our calling? And a very practical, revealing test is, would I make this same choice in the same way if it were going to be reported on the front page tomorrow? Complete transparency.
The transparency test. That's powerful.
It really cuts through. If a decision relies on secrecy or bending the rules or compromising core integrity just to get done quickly, it fails this filter. Doesn't matter how true or timely it seemed.
So it really elevates the whole process. It's the difference between what you can get away with and what you should actually do.
That's a great way to put it, yes.
Okay, we have the framework. Truth, goodness, timeliness, godliness, TGTG. Let's make it concrete.
Yeah.
How does this work in a real-life scenario? You mentioned a manager dealing with conflicting signals about an employee.
Yeah, let's take that example. Imagine a manager, let's call her Sarah. She's looking at the performance data for her team member, Mark. And the numbers, the quantitative stuff, show his output has been dipping for the last quarter. Spreadsheets are showing red flags.
Okay, standard performance issue, maybe.
You'd think so. But, and here's the conflict. Sarah's also getting amazing qualitative feedback about Mark. His clients love him. His peers are praising his creativity, his leadership, how he's mentoring the newer team members.
So the numbers say one thing, the people say another. That's a tough spot. A typical reaction might be just to focus on the numbers, right? And put them on a performance plan.
That would be the path of least resistance, maybe. But using TGTG forces Sarah to pause and dig deeper. She starts with truth. She needs to get beyond the narrative of Mark slacking and find the actual facts.
So how does she do that? What does the truth step look like here?
She does a proper audit. She doesn't just glance at the main dashboard. She cross-references Mark's output metrics with things like HR training logs, project management timelines, team calendars.
And what does she find?
She discovers the dip in his measured output started exactly when 2 other things happened. First, the whole team had mandatory training on a complex new software tool, which temporarily slowed everyone down.
Okay, that makes sense. What was the second thing?
Second, Mark had volunteered at Sarah's request, actually to mentor 2 junior hires. This mentoring was crucial for the team's future, getting the new folks up to speed, but it wasn't being tracked as part of his core output KPIs.
So the truth wasn't that he was slacking, it was that his effort had shifted to valuable but unmeasured work.
Precisely. The facts revealed a different story. And that completely changes the lens when she moves to goodness.
How so? What does the goodness filter tell her now?
She evaluates the impact. Is the lower measured output actually hurting clients? No. The feedback shows client satisfaction is still high. Are the junior team members benefiting from his mentorship? Absolutely. They're integrating faster, feeling supported. So this shift in Mark's effort is actually contributing significantly to the team's long-term health and capability.
So goodness confirms this isn't really a performance problem to be fixed, but maybe a successful shift in priorities that needs to be acknowledged.
Exactly. It's a positive contribution, not a deficit.
Which then totally changes the timeliness aspect, right? The urgency isn't about punishment anymore.
Correct. The timely action isn't an immediate performance improvement plan. Instead, the decision becomes about refining Mark's role and supporting what's actually working.
So what's the timely action then?
Sarah decides to implement a targeted support plan, maybe some resources to help manage the mentoring load, and crucially, she works to adjust Mark's KPIs to actually include the impact of his mentoring work going forward.
That makes so much sense. And then the final check, godliness.
Right. Instead of an expedient action based on incomplete data, fixing the red number, the outcome is about recognizing valuable work, refining a role, supporting an employee. It boosts morale, aligns with the company's stated values about developing people. It's a decision Sarah can explain openly and feel good about. It passes the transparency test.
That's a fantastic illustration of how the framework changes the outcome. You also mentioned an older example from Exodus.
Yes, the sources brought up the story of Moses and Jethro. It's Exodus 18. Basically, Moses is trying to judge every single dispute among, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people, all by himself.
Sounds exhausting, probably not very effective.
Totally unsustainable. He's burning out, and the people are waiting forever. He's relying on his direct connection to God, maybe, but ignoring the practical reality.
So where does discernment come in?
His father-in-law, Jethro, comes to visit. Jethro observes this whole chaotic situation. He doesn't offer some deep spiritual insight. He offers practical, straightforward advice. That's the true filter and external perspective on the facts of the situation.
What was the advice?
Jethro basically said, "This is nuts. You can't do this alone. You need to delegate." He advised Moses to choose capable leaders, specifically men who fear God, trustworthy men, to handle the smaller cases so Moses could focus on the biggest issues.
And Moses listened.
He did. He took Jethro's practical truth, weighed it against his divine calling and responsibility, godliness, considered the needs of the people, goodness, and implemented a new, more efficient structure, timeliness. It shows discernment isn't just about spiritual insight. It's about integrating that with practical wisdom and external counsel.
That's a great connection. It helps clarify what discernment is. The source material distinguishes it from just being smart, right? It calls discernment wisdom applied.
Yes, and that distinction is important. Think of it like a hierarchy. Knowledge is just having the facts, the what. Intelligence is the ability to process those facts, solve problems, the how.
Okay.
But wisdom is about using that knowledge and intelligence rightly, for the right purposes. The sources frame it as using them for God's glory and the good of others. Discernment is the action part of wisdom. It's the filter that turns intelligence into meaningful, principled action.
That makes discernment sound incredibly relevant right now, especially with everything going on in the world, like filter bubbles and echo chambers online.
Absolutely critical. If you're only ever hearing viewpoints you already agree with, how can you possibly apply the truth filter effectively? Discernment demands that you actively seek out credible opposing views, that you challenge your own assumptions. You have to fight against confirmation bias.
Relying on just one source, or only sources that confirm what you want to believe, basically short-circuits the whole process before you start.
It completely undermines it. And looking ahead, this skill isn't just nice to have, it's becoming essential for survival, professionally and personally. Think about the challenges coming with AI and just the sheer volume of information.
Yeah, tell me about that. How does AI change the game for discernment?
Well, think about step one, truth. Discerning what's factually accurate is already hard. But with sophisticated AI generating text, images, even video deepfakes, it's becoming a monumental task.
You can't just trust what you see or read anymore.
Not automatically.
Yeah.
And you can't just outsource your critical thinking to an algorithm. An AI might generate a really persuasive business plan, but it has no built-in goodness or godliness filter. It doesn't understand ethics or human dignity.
So the human leader's role becomes even more critical
Yeah.
to apply those higher level filters.
Exactly. We have to ensure technology serves our values, not the other way around. The moral responsibility still rests with us.
You also mentioned an ideological challenge, something about objective truth.
Yeah, the sources touch on the broader cultural trend, where the very idea of objective truth seems to be eroding, replaced by more relative viewpoints, my truth, your truth.
How does that impact discernment?
Well, if you don't believe objective truth even exists, how can you start with step one? The whole TGTG framework rests on the conviction that there are verifiable facts and there are external standards of goodness and integrity, even if they're hard to discern sometimes. Discernment requires holding on to that foundation.
Okay, so practicing this TGTG framework consistently, what's the payoff for the listener? What do you actually gain?
Two key things, really. First is clarity under pressure. You make decisions faster, with fewer second guesses, more confidence in your execution.
Less time stuck in that paralysis loop.
Right. But maybe even more important is gaining moral confidence. That deep-seated assurance that you've made the best call you could, considering all the angles, facts, impact, timing, values. The kind of confidence that lets you explain your decision clearly to your team, to stakeholders, and frankly allows you to sleep at night.
Moving from confusion to confidence. That sounds like a worthy goal.
It's about moving toward a grounded, principled confidence in your judgment.
We started this deep dive aiming to help you, the listener, move past analysis paralysis. And it seems like discernment, using this TGTG framework, truth, goodness, timeliness, godliness, is the practical path to get there.
It really provides that structure.
Yeah.
And we want to leave you with something very practical you can do, like right now or later today. It shouldn't take more than 10, maybe 20 minutes.
Okay, what's the exercise?
Take a real decision that's on your plate right now, something you need to figure out. Grab a piece of paper or open a doc.
Right.
First, write down 3 things about this situation that you know are verifiable facts. Then write down 3 things you realize are assumptions you're making. Just separating those out is powerful.
Facts versus assumptions. Got it.
Then, quickly run the decision through the 4 filters. Ask yourself one key question for each. For truth, what's one thing I could verify about this within the next 24 hours? For goodness, who clearly benefits from this and who might unintentionally lose out or be harmed?
Okay.
For timeliness, what's the realistic downside if I wait one more week to decide or act? And for godliness, would I feel comfortable with this decision and how I made it if it were made completely public?
That exercise alone, just those questions, seems like it would bring a lot more clarity.
You really can.
Yeah.
It forces you to structure your thinking in a way you might not have before.
So we'll leave you with a final thought, a question posed by the source material that really stuck with me. What decision sitting in your inbox or on your mind right now might look different, might actually change if you ran it through the filters of truth, goodness, timeliness, and godliness?
That difference you might find, that shift in perspective or even outcome, that's discernment in action.